Hey everyone, gonna do a little chainsaw milling again today. One of the things we want to go over is the new GB low profile bar I got for my Stihl 660 Magnum. I've used the Stihl 63 PMX low profile chain in the past, but like maybe many of you, you've went online to kind of find out a little bit, is it compatible? Is it not compatible with the standard bar and sprocket combination? And maybe you've come away with more questions than answers. And there are some good resources out there. And ultimately, I kind of went with the idea, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and just get the actual low profile bar that's specifically designed for the Stihl 63 PMX chain. This is the loop that I had purchased. And like I say, I've had this and I've actually ran it on a standard Stihl Roll-O-Matic ES bar and standard drive sprocket in the past, and I've never had any problems. But as I look forward to using the Logosol F2 Plus, I want to be able to, ensure that I'm using the exact correct part. So, as you see here, that's the Stihl 63 PMX. This is a low profile ripping chain for milling, and it has the 1/4 inch kerf, which is very important with the Logosol because, as you may know, whenever you turn the handle to raise the log lifter, it increments in 1/4 inch increments. This is actually a Carlton name brand ripping chain here. It's, I think I got this off of Bailey's out in California. Called Woodland Pro, but if you look at the actual chain, it says Carlton on it. And once again, it's a very similar situation. It's a 20 inch. It's for a 20 inch bar. This is standard ripping chain, and you say, well, okay, so if this is 1/4 inch, what's this? It's about 11/32. If you can think about 5/16 of an inch, it's just a tad over 5/16 of an inch, and I'll demonstrate that there on this other log I have set up here. Let's go and just cut in and see what the standard thickness is. Using just a Granberg small log mill. All right, let's just measure that. All I did is just cut in to the log just to see what we're actually looking at in terms of the kerf. And it should be somewhat right around a little bit over. I don't want to mill too far because if you get any, I'm referencing off of the 4 inch mark, by the way, right there, just for no particular reason. That just happens to be where I'm holding it. So you can see the 1/4 inch line right there, and it's just, not even quite, just barely over 5/16 of an inch. I've read in forums, sometimes people that are, really excited about their new bandsaw, and that is fantastic, and you never know, maybe one of these days I'll be excited about my brand new bandsaw, but they'll say things about chainsaw milling like, why would you want to have a 1/2 inch kerf when you can have a 1/16 of an inch kerf? And I'm thinking, okay, for one thing, bandsaws don't run a 1/16 inch kerf. They run more like at least 1/8 of an inch. And unless you're running a really big chain on a chainsaw mill, you're not eating up a 1/2 inch material with each pass either. So yeah, I think the truth is somewhere a little bit in the middle. But let's go ahead and fire up the chainsaw here. Let me just show you the bar real quick. This is it. The GB, this is out of Australia, and the thing about it is, I ordered this thing earlier in the month, and it actually came from Australia to the United States in, I think, about a week. And then it sat there, I guess, in customs over on the West Coast for quite a while, and then I kept trying to track it through, the United States Postal Service tracking app, and around the 19th of the month, it just kind of in transit to next place. Never heard anything, and here it is at the end of the month, and it just showed up as it's been delivered, and like, wow, cool, that's awesome. But like I say, I've previously already had this 63 PMX chain. It's a super smooth operating chain, and because it's a thin kerf, it really just slices right through the wood. But also, and for like maximizing your power, like maybe on a smaller chain, it's really good to be able to have that thin kerf. But like I say, probably the biggest advantage with the Logosol is with every crank, you're getting an exact 1/4 inch height increase. So like for instance, if you crank it 4 times, that's 3/4 of an inch plus 1/4 for the kerf. So you should be able to cut a 3/4 inch board with 4 clicks. Where before, with the regular steel Roll-O-Matic bar and standard ripping chain, it was slightly less than that amount. Like for instance, if I was trying to cut a 1-inch board, it would be maybe a little bit over 7/8 of an inch. You say, well, you know, in metric, I think it's about 2 millimeters less as I looked. But this is the package it comes in. Thankfully, it was not damaged in any way in the shipping. And you can see it's 20-inch bar. It's 50 centimeters long. It's 72 links. It's 3/8 LP, low profile. And the gauge of the groove is 0.50. Okay, now 0.050 rather. Let me just show you the drive sprocket. This is a standard drive sprocket for the Stihl 3/8, and obviously I'm not going to take the drive sprocket back out of here. The low profile sprocket that comes with it looks very similar to this. You don't see a whole lot of difference, but it perfectly matches with the chain, and I think that's important. So let's go ahead and, oh, we might want to get the log up on there before we mill. Hey, you know what? Generally speaking, it's best if you're going to use a system like this where I have ramps to manually load it up on here, to go ahead and leave the bark on it so you have more traction. But I wanted to have this log already debarked, so I went ahead and stripped it, but it makes it very slick. So enjoy this. You know, this is just a manual way of loading logs. Obviously, you know, when you can, using mechanized equipment to lift it. And obviously you want to try to maintain safety, which I don't know if this is like the best example of safety, but it's a method to get the log up on the stand. I didn't look up this particular log weight on the wood web log chart. It's southern yellow pine, 12 inches at the base, 11.5 at the other end. I milled this to be just long enough to rest on the log lifts of the Logosol here, which are 2 meters apart, a little bit over 78 inches. Once you get it up here, you can kind of manipulate it a little bit, getting it up on the stand. Tell it to stay there. If you're like me, sometimes you have to use $6 million man sounds to be able to get stuff up on there. Yeah, and then you get your fingers out of there too. All right. Let me find a good spot where it likes right here. All right, then we got our clamps. Let's slide that bad boy on there, pushing in at the bottom, tighten the knob, and then clamp the handle. I previously mentioned in some of my videos that there have been times that I've been milling and this thing would just vibrate open like that. Well, you know what? Went to Walmart and bought some of these little doodads, little spring clamps. They're like $1 something. I've been putting them on here. Problem solved, at least so far. We'll see if it continues to work. And get the other log lift down here. Pushing in at the bottom. Tighten it. Clamp. Oh, I don't feel quite right. It moved a little bit. There we go. Yeah, yeah. Now it's all the way back. I'll go ahead and put this thing. I imagine, once again, you want these to be far enough away so when you are milling through, you don't want to come anywhere close to your clamp. So I'm tilting these things down so they're not just sticking up here, likely to get hit by the saw. Just having an awareness of those things, probably a good idea. All right, let's try out our new low profile GB milling bar with the Steel 63 PMX chain. Before I do that, let me raise the log up to the first cut height. Let me do a little bit on this side also. I'm gonna create a flat surface, then I'm gonna roll it over so the log rests on that flat surface. And then we'll make a few slices and just check it out. Try out the bar. Let me attach my crank handle. Just took it right there. Let me just see something here. Yeah, that's right at about a true 1/4 of an inch of curve. I forgot, I normally put a wedge in here. Let me just do that real quick. And, you know, something as light as this top slab, you wouldn't even need to have a wedge, but like I've mentioned before, most of the chainsaw milling I do now is softwood. I make it into lumber for various projects. I have a pretty good amount of hardwood that I've milled in the past with the Alaskan, wider widths. But not only do I enjoy the softwood just because it cuts so well and so easily comparatively, but just on a practical note, there's so many projects that I just can't bring myself to go into a lumber yard or, you know, Home Depot or something and buying wood when I have all the free wood I can use. Now, the thing about this, because I primarily use it for softwood, milling pine, the nice thing that I've mentioned before is with chainsaw milling, because it oils the chain, it's going through here and it's not getting all gummed up like maybe a bandsaw blade would or so forth. And if you look at the cut, it's as flat as a pancake. That thing, and you say, well, how hot is that bar? Not at all, not at all. Now, obviously, that's just one pass through a log. It's no big deal. But I mean, there's no heat whatsoever. You know what, it was funny. I was actually doing this kind of almost in a practice type thing, just in my mind sometime back. I'm like, yeah, you can touch that. You can even touch the crankcase, it's not hot. And for some reason, I thought, hey, you know what? Let me go ahead and just touch the muffler. And I touched that, and I basically branded my hand. My wife come running over, what in the world's going on? I don't know why I did that. I guess it's not that cool. Yeah, the muffler does get hot. But that's the nice thing with the chainsaw milling. Man, it cuts it nice and flat. There's not the waviness that you get with, you know, other options. And another thing, you notice these clamps, they held fine, no problem there. Let me flip this thing over and I'll rest it on that flat surface. It's right, that particular one, it's cutting even side to side. I may have to adjust the log lifter. I have not touched the log lifter since I did this, but it's right at about 3/4. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to cut thinner boards than the previous bar. You know, when I got this bar and I put the chain on it and put it in the groove, it wouldn't even go around. I'm like, what in the world? But what it is whenever they paint it, you know, powder coating or paint or whatever it is, it's actually on that groove. So really all it took was just, you know, the moment I fired the chainsaw up and it spun a few revolutions, it took care of that and it was fine. But yeah, I mean, that was really cool. I've been wanting to be able to mill some thinner boards like this for siding, for little sheds and things of that nature. And it's very consistent. Boom, very consistent across the width there. All right, so just to wrap up here, the new GB milling bar and the Stihl 63 PMX chain is an excellent combination for this type of milling, for the softwood, the actual lumber, pine milling. Fantastic. It seems like it has pretty good sawdust clearing. It cuts efficiently, cuts as flat as can be, and it helps the machine run a little bit more efficiently by having a smaller kerf. It operates at increments correctly with the Logosol lift arm, and just very, very pleased with it. Hey, thanks for watching.